The massive alien ships appeared around Earth's orbital station like dark clouds before a storm. Ambassador Zethikar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the small blue planet through the viewing window. His four arms were crossed in what humans would recognize as annoyance, though they had no way of knowing this. "Such a small world," he muttered to his aide. "Hard to believe these creatures have caused so much trouble." The trouble had started 200 years ago, when humans first developed faster-than-light travel. The Galaxy Council had watched with mild interest as the young species took their first steps into space. Most new civilizations were cautious, taking centuries to establish even a few nearby colonies. Humans were different. They spread like wildfire across the galaxy, establishing colonies on 50 worlds in just 2 centuries. This rapid expansion worried the Council. For 3,000 years they had maintained perfect order across the galaxy. 12 ancient species ruled together, keeping newer civilizations under strict control. Every species that joined galactic society followed the same pattern. They were given a choice between peaceful submission or total destruction. None had ever chosen destruction. Zethkar's communicator buzzed. "Ambassador, the human orbital station is requesting permission to dock a shuttle with our ship." "Denied," Zethkar replied. "We are not here for pleasantries. Open a channel to their leadership." The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of what appeared to be a government building on Earth's moon. A middle-aged human woman sat behind a simple desk, her hands folded calmly. She had short gray hair and wore a plain blue uniform. Most importantly, she was smiling. "Greetings," she said in accented but clear galactic standard language. "I am President Chen Wei of the United Earth Government. Welcome to human space. I hope your journey was comfortable." Zethkar blinked his large eyes in confusion. This was not the response he expected. "I am Ambassador Zethkar of the Galactic Council. I bring a message from the 12 ruling species of this galaxy." "How exciting," President Chen replied, her smile growing wider. "We've been looking forward to formal contact with the Council. Would you like some tea while we talk? I have some excellent jasmine tea from Earth," the ambassador's aide whispered urgently in his ear. But Zethkar waved him away. This human was either very brave or very foolish. "I am not here for refreshments. I bring an ultimatum from the Galaxy Council." "An ultimatum?" President Chen leaned forward with apparent interest. "How fascinating. Please continue." Zethkar activated his official recording device and began reading from the formal declaration. "By order of the Galaxy Council, representing the 12 ancient and noble species who rule this galaxy, humanity is commanded to surrender all military forces, submit to Council oversight, and accept protective custody status. You have 72 standard hours to comply. Failure to surrender will result in the complete elimination of your species." He expected fear, panic, or at least some sign of distress. Instead, President Chen nodded thoughtfully as if he had just given her a weather report. "I see," she said after a moment. "And this ultimatum, is it negotiable?" "There are no negotiations," Zethkar replied firmly. "The Council has spoken. Your species has expanded too rapidly and represents a threat to galactic stability. You will submit or be destroyed." President Chen tapped her fingers on the desk, still maintaining that strange smile. "May I ask what other species have chosen when given this ultimatum?" "All have chosen wisely," Zethkar said with pride. "Every civilization recognizes the futility of opposing the Council's might. Your species numbers only 10 billion across 50 worlds. The Council commands trillions across thousands of systems." "Impressive numbers," President Chen agreed. "Tell me, Ambassador, have you ever been to Earth?" The question caught Zethkar off guard. "I have no need to visit primitive worlds." "Oh, but Earth is quite lovely this time of year. The cherry blossoms are blooming in Japan, and the autumn colors are starting in North America. You really should visit sometime." She paused, then added, "After we finish our business here, of course." Zethkar's aide was frantically checking his instruments. He leaned over and whispered, "Sir, our sensors show massive energy spikes across all human colonies. They appear to be powering up weapon systems." The ambassador felt a moment of satisfaction. Finally, a normal response. "President Chen, our sensors indicate your military is mobilizing." "This is pointless. Stand down your forces immediately." President Chen glanced at something off-screen, then looked back at the camera. "Oh, that. Yes, we're just running some routine drills. Nothing to worry about." Her smile never wavered. "Routine drills?" Zethkar's voice rose in pitch. You have been given an ultimatum by the most powerful force in the galaxy, and you call military preparations routine drills? Well, yes, President Chen said calmly. We believe in being prepared. It's a human trait, you might say. Always ready for unexpected situations. The ambassador studied her face carefully. In 3,000 years of council history, no species had ever responded to the ultimatum with such cheerfulness. Something was wrong here, but he could not identify what it was. You do understand the consequences of defiance? He asked slowly. Your entire species will be eliminated. Your colonies will be destroyed. Your homeworld will be reduced to ash. President Chen nodded seriously, though the smile remained. I understand perfectly, Ambassador, and I appreciate you taking the time to explain the situation so clearly. It's very thoughtful of you. Zethkar felt a growing sense of unease. This conversation was not following any pattern he recognized. Then you will surrender? Oh, we'll need to discuss it, of course, President Chen replied. 72 hours should be enough time for proper consideration. In the meantime, are you sure you won't reconsider that tea? I could have some sent up to your ship, along with some cookies. My grandmother's recipe. I do not drink tea, Zethkar said stiffly. Coffee then? Or perhaps something stronger? I understand the stress of official duties. President Chen's expression remained pleasant and concerned. You're welcome to send down a cultural exchange team. We'd be delighted to show your people around. Luna City has some wonderful museums. The ambassador closed the communication channel with more force than necessary. He turned to his aide, all four arms gesturing in agitation. In 3,000 years of council history, he said slowly, no species has ever invited us for tea after receiving an ultimatum of destruction. His aide checked the sensor readings again. Sir, the energy signatures from human space are unusual. Our analysts cannot identify the weapon types they're charging. It matters not, Zethkar declared. Position the fleet for demonstration bombardment. Once they see a few of their outer colonies reduced to space dust, they will reconsider their position. As the council fleet moved into attack formation, President Chen Wei sat alone in her office on Luna, the smile finally fading from her face. She activated a secure communication channel. Admiral Okafor, are our people in position? A voice crackled back through the encrypted channel. All civilian populations have been evacuated to the deep space stations, Madam President. The volunteers are ready. And our special guests? The Council has no idea they're being watched by every intelligence service in the galaxy. The hegemony, the Trade Federation, even the neutral worlds are monitoring this situation closely. President Chen's smile returned, though it was different now. Sharper. Excellent. Let's show the galaxy something new, something they've never seen before. She leaned back in her chair and activated the general broadcast system. Her message would reach every human colony, every ship, every station across 50 worlds. My fellow humans, she began. The Galaxy Council has given us 72 hours to surrender our freedom. I think you know what our answer will be. The 72 hours passed slowly for the Galaxy Council fleet. Ambassador Zethkar spent most of the time pacing his bridge, checking reports from his intelligence officers. Human space had gone strangely quiet. Ships still moved between colonies, but there was less traffic than before. Energy readings remained high, but the patterns were unlike any known weapon signatures. Perhaps they are evacuating their worlds, suggested his aide hopefully. No, Zethkar replied, studying the tactical displays. Evacuating 10 billion beings would require massive ship movements. This is something else. Other species across the galaxy were watching too. The news that someone had actually received the Council's ultimatum and not immediately surrendered spread quickly through unofficial channels. Trade Federation merchants whispered about it in spaceports. Hegemony intelligence officers filed urgent reports. Even the normally peaceful neutral worlds increased their monitoring of Council space. This had never happened before. In 3,000 years, every species had chosen submission over destruction. The pattern was always the same. Ultimatum delivered, token resistance offered, overwhelming force demonstrated, immediate surrender tendered, clean and efficient. When the deadline arrived, Zethkar opened communications to Luna City. President. Chen Wei appeared on screen again, sitting at the same desk, wearing the same blue uniform. Most unnervingly, she wore the same calm smile. "Good morning, Ambassador," she said cheerfully. "I hope you slept well. The view of Earth from your position must be quite lovely." "The time for pleasantries has ended," Zethkar declared. 72 hours have passed. What is humanity's answer to the Council's ultimatum? President Chen folded her hands on the desk and looked directly into the camera. "After careful consideration and extensive consultation with our people across 50 worlds, humanity's answer is this. Thank you for your generous offer, but we'll have to politely decline." The bridge of Zethkar's flagship fell completely silent. His aide dropped the datapad he was holding. Several junior officers stopped working to stare at the screen. "We're quite happy managing our own affairs," President Chen continued pleasantly. "However, we'd love to discuss a proper trade and cultural exchange agreement if you're interested. I still have that jasmine tea if you'd like to try it." Zethkar found his voice after several long moments. "You refuse?" "We prefer the term politely decline," President Chen corrected. "Refuse sounds so hostile, and we're not hostile people. We simply value our independence. Surely you can understand that." "You cannot be serious," Zethkar sputtered. "Do you not comprehend what you have done? No species in galactic history has ever refused the Council's ultimatum." "Really?" President Chen seemed genuinely interested. "How fascinating." "Well, there's a first time for everything, isn't there? We humans have always been fond of making history." The ambassador activated his threat assessment protocols, reading directly from the official manual. "Your refusal means the immediate implementation of punitive measures. Your species will be eliminated. Your worlds will be destroyed. Your very existence will be erased from galactic records." President Chen nodded thoughtfully. "I understand that's your traditional approach, Ambassador. But I think you may be misunderstanding something fundamental about humanity." "And what is that?" Zethkar demanded. Her smile grew wider, and for the first time the ambassador noticed it did not reach her eyes. There was something else there now, something that made his four stomachs clench with unease. "We don't surrender, Ambassador. We adapt, we overcome, and we smile while doing it. Your move." The communication ended. Zethkar stared at the blank screen for a full minute before turning to his tactical officer. "Begin the demonstration bombardment. Target the mining colony on Kepler 442b. One orbital strike should be sufficient to encourage reason." The Council fleet moved into attack formation. 12 massive dreadnoughts, each carrying enough firepower to crack a planet's surface, aligned their weapons toward human space. Support. Ships took positions for the follow-up assault that would surely come after humanity saw their power and surrendered. But as they approached their target, something strange happened. The mining colony on Kepler 442b simply disappeared. "Sensor error," the tactical officer reported, frantically checking his instruments. The colony was there, now it shows empty space. "Impossible," Zethkar snapped. "Recheck your readings." "Sir, I'm reading vacuum where there should be a colony of 50,000 humans and full mining infrastructure. It's as if they just vanished." Zethkar moved to the tactical station himself. The readings were clear. Where satellite images had shown a thriving mining operation just hours before, there was now nothing but empty space and the rocky surface of the planet below. "Check the other colonies," he ordered. One by one, the reports came back. Colony after colony showed the same impossible result. Buildings, infrastructure, defensive platforms all gone. Not destroyed, not abandoned, simply not there anymore. "How is this possible?" Zethkar's aide whispered. Before anyone could answer, the communication system activated without authorization. President Chen Wei's face appeared on every screen aboard every ship in the Council fleet simultaneously. "Hello again, Ambassador," she said, her voice coming from speakers throughout the ships. "I hope you're not too disappointed about the colonies. We thought it would be rude to make you destroy empty buildings." "How are you accessing our communications?" Zethkar demanded. "Oh, we've had people monitoring your systems for quite some time," President Chen replied casually. "Very impressive technology, by the way. We've learned a great deal from studying it." The ambassador felt cold fear creeping up his spine. "Where are your colonists?" "Safe," President Chen said simply. Did you really think we'd leave our people defenseless when we knew you were coming? We've been preparing for this conversation for 50 years, Ambassador. Preparing how? President Chen's expression became almost maternal, like a teacher explaining something to a slow student. The Galaxy Council has a very predictable pattern, Ambassador. Ultimatum, demonstration of force, submission. We studied your methods carefully. Every species that joined galactic society followed the same path. Every species except one. What species? Zethkar asked, though part of him already knew the answer. Ours, President Chen said with pride. We decided to try something different, something that's never been attempted in the 3,000 years of council rule. And what is that? Her smile returned to its full brightness. We decided to say no and mean it. Alarm klaxons suddenly started wailing throughout the council fleet. The tactical officer shouted over the noise, "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Unknown contacts appearing on all vectors." On the main screen, space began to shimmer and warp. Ship after ship materialized from what seemed like empty void. They were human vessels, but unlike any the Council had seen before. Sleek, fast, and bristling with weapons that defied identification. "You see, Ambassador," President Chen's voice continued calmly over the chaos. "While you were busy ruling, through fear for 3,000 years we were busy learning. Learning about your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses, and most importantly, learning how to hide until we were ready to introduce ourselves properly." Admiral Sarah Okafor's voice replaced President Chen's on the communication channel. She was a tall woman with steel gray hair and the bearing of someone who had spent her life in space. "Galaxy Council Fleet, this is Admiral Okafor of the United Human Defense Force. You are now completely surrounded. I'm sure your sensors have confirmed that we outnumber your fleet 3-1. Zethkar checked his tactical display. It was true. Human ships had appeared everywhere, emerging from asteroid fields, nebulae, and seemingly empty space itself. How had they hidden so many vessels? However, Admiral Okafor continued, "We're not here to start a war. We're here to finish one before it begins. Council ships, you are free to leave human space at any time. We will not fire unless fired upon." "This is impossible," Zethkar whispered. "How did they hide an entire fleet?" President Chen's face reappeared on screen. "Oh, that's not our fleet, Ambassador. That's just our local defense force. Our real fleet is elsewhere." "Where?" President Chen's smile became almost mischievous. "Let's just say they're making some new friends. The galaxy is full of species who've been waiting a very long time for someone to say no to the Council. Apparently, we're not the only ones who value independence." The communication ended, leaving the Council fleet surrounded by human ships and facing an impossible choice: retreat or fight a battle they couldn't win against an enemy they didn't understand. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Galaxy Council had encountered something they had never planned for: a species that refused to be afraid. Ambassador Zethkar had two choices: retreat in shame or fight an impossible battle. His pride as a council representative made the decision for him. "All ships attack formation," he ordered. "These primitives may have surprised us, but they cannot match 3,000 years of military superiority." The council fleet opened fire first. Massive energy beams lanced through space toward the human ships. Zethkar expected to see the crude human vessels torn apart by weapons that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Instead, he watched in amazement as the human ships simply weren't there anymore. They moved like water, flowing around the energy beams with impossible grace. Some seemed to flicker in and out of existence, appearing and disappearing faster than his targeting systems could track. "How are they moving like that?" his tactical officer shouted over the sound of weapons fire. Before anyone could answer, the human ships began their counterattack. But it wasn't like any military engagement Zethkar had ever seen. The humans didn't try to destroy the council ships. They disabled them. Precise strikes took out weapon systems, engines, and communications, leaving the ships helpless but intact. And throughout the battle, human voices could be heard on open communication channels, talking to each other like they were playing a game. "Nice shot, Rodriguez. You got their main cannon on the first try. Thanks, Captain. Hey, that big one on the left looks lonely. Should we keep him company? Why not? Just remember to leave their life support alone. We're not barbarians. Zethkar couldn't believe what he was hearing. These humans were treating a life-or-death battle like some kind of sporting event. Even worse, they were winning. His flagship shuddered as human weapons struck its engine compartment. Emergency lights flickered on, and his aide reported massive systems failures throughout the ship. Sir, we've lost main engines, weapons control, and long-range communications. But life support and emergency systems are untouched. How is that possible? Zethkar demanded. Our ships are protected by energy shields that have never been penetrated. A new voice answered him. A human voice coming from his own ship's internal communication system. Hello there. Sorry about the rough handling, but you did shoot first. Zethkar spun around looking for the source of the voice. How are you aboard my ship? Oh, we're not aboard your ship, the cheerful human voice replied. We're just borrowing your communication system. Hope you don't mind. We wanted to make sure you were okay after that hit. You attacked us to make sure we were okay. Well, yes. We disabled your weapons so you couldn't hurt yourselves or anyone else. Safety first, you know. Zethkar's forearms began shaking with rage and confusion. You are attacking the Galaxy Council. This is an act of war against the most powerful force in the galaxy. Actually, another human voice joined the conversation. We're defending ourselves against an unprovoked attack. You came to our space, threatened our people, and opened fire first. We're just responding appropriately. Appropriately? Zethkar's voice rose to a near shriek. You have declared war on galactic civilization itself. Have we? The first human voice sounded genuinely curious. Because from our perspective, we politely declined your ultimatum. You attacked us and we defended ourselves. That's not war. That's self-defense. The tactical display showed that most of the Council fleet was now disabled. Human ships moved between the drifting Council vessels, but they weren't finishing them off. Instead, they seemed to be helping. Sir, his aide reported in a stunned voice. The humans are sending repair crews to our damaged ships. What? They're asking permission to come aboard and fix our life support systems. They say they noticed some of our ships have environmental problems after the battle. Zethkar stared at the tactical display. This made no sense. In 3,000 years of galactic history, victorious forces destroyed their enemies. They didn't offer to fix their air conditioning. The communication channel activated again. This time it was Admiral Okafor's voice. Council ships, this is Admiral Okafor. We know some of your vessels have suffered life support damage. We're prepared to send medical and technical assistance. No strings attached. Why? Zethkar found himself asking. Because you're living beings in distress, Admiral Okafor replied simply. We may disagree about politics, but we're not going to let people die from preventable causes. But we attacked you. Yes, you did. And we defended ourselves. But the fighting's over now, isn't it? No point in holding grudges. Zethkar looked around his bridge. Half his crew was injured, life support was failing, and they were completely at the mercy of their human captors. Yet instead of demands for surrender or threats of execution, the humans were offering medical aid. What do you want from us? He asked. Right now? We want to make sure everyone's safe and healthy, Admiral Okafor replied. After that, we'd like to have a conversation. A real conversation, not ultimatums or threats. And about what? About the future of the galaxy. About whether we can find a better way to handle disagreements than threatening to destroy entire species. As if to emphasize the point, a human shuttle appeared on Zethkar's viewscreen, approaching his flagship. The pilot's voice came through the communication system. Council ship, this is Medical Transport 7. We have doctors and engineers aboard, plus some really good coffee. Permission to dock? Zethkar looked at his aide, who shrugged all four of his shoulders helplessly. Nothing in Council military doctrine covered this situation. Permission. Granted, Zethkar said slowly. 20 minutes later, human medical personnel were treating wounded Council crew members while human engineers worked to repair damaged systems. The humans worked efficiently and professionally, chatting casually with Council personnel as if they were old friends instead of recent enemies. Dr. Sarah Kim, the lead human medic, approached Zethkar while her team worked. She was a small woman with kind eyes and hands that moved with precise skill as she treated his aide's injured arm. You're lucky, she told Zethkar. Your people build really solid ships. Most of the damage is superficial. Why are you helping us? Zethkar asked. We came here to destroy your species, Dr. Kim paused in her work, considering the question. Because that's what people do, she said finally. When someone's hurt, you help them. When someone's in trouble, you offer assistance. It doesn't matter who they are or what they've done. But we're enemies, are we? Dr. Kim asked. I mean, we had a disagreement and a brief fight, but does that make us enemies forever? Can't people change their minds? Zethkar watched as a human engineer showed one of his technical officers how to repair a damaged console. The human was patient and thorough, treating the council engineer like a valued student rather than a defeated enemy. Your species is very strange, Zethkar observed. Dr. Kim smiled. We get that a lot. Most species find us confusing at first. How do you fight a war while treating your enemies like friends? Simple, Dr. Kim replied as she finished bandaging his aide's arm. We don't see you as enemies. We see you as people who made some bad decisions. People can always make better decisions tomorrow. A new alarm sounded on the bridge, but it wasn't a danger signal. It was an incoming priority message from Council Space. Admiral Okafor's voice came through the ship's communication system. Ambassador Zethkar, you're receiving an urgent message from the Galaxy Council homeworld. It seems they want to talk to you. The main screen activated, showing the council chamber on the distant homeworld. All 12 ruling species were present, and they looked deeply concerned. High Counselor Vexthul, eldest member of the council, spoke first. Ambassador, report your situation immediately. Zethkar looked around his bridge, where humans and council crew worked side by side to repair battle damage. He thought about Dr. Kim's question about enemies and friends. He considered the human engineer who was patiently teaching council personnel about their own systems. High Counselor, he said slowly, I believe we need to reconsider our approach to this situation. What do you mean? I mean, sir, that we may have encountered something completely outside our experience. A species that fights wars differently than anyone else in the galaxy. Explain. Zethkar gestured around his bridge. They defeated us completely, then immediately began providing medical aid and technical assistance. They treat warfare like a temporary disagreement between friends. That's impossible. With respect, High Counselor, I'm looking at the impossible right now. We attacked them with overwhelming force, and they responded with overwhelming kindness. I'm not sure our traditional methods will work against people who consider their enemies to be potential friends. The council members looked at each other in confusion. In 3,000 years of rule, they had never encountered a species that responded to military defeat with medical assistance. What do they want? High Counselor Vexthul asked. Zethkar looked at Dr. Kim, who was now teaching his medical officer about human treatment techniques. I believe, sir, that they want to talk. While the Galaxy Council tried to understand what had happened to their fleet, the rest of the galaxy was watching in amazement. News of humanity's victory spread through every trade route, every diplomatic channel, every smuggler's cantina from the core worlds to the outer rim. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone had said no to the Galaxy Council and made it stick. The hegemony's intelligence chief, a serpentine being named Salith, watched the reports with growing excitement. Contact our agents in human space immediately, she ordered her subordinates. I want to know everything about these humans. Their technology, their military capabilities, their intentions. In the Trade Federation's headquarters, Chairman Korvik paced his office with uncharacteristic energy. If the humans can stand against the Council, he muttered to his advisors, perhaps it's time to reconsider our own relationship with those tyrants. Even the peaceful neutral worlds began emergency sessions. Ambassador Reith of the Crystalline Coalition spoke for many when she said, perhaps we have been neutral for too long. Perhaps it is time to choose a side. But the most dramatic reaction came from an unexpected source, the Council's own member species. On the industrial world of Keth Prime, workers in the vast manufacturing plants began talking in hushed voices about the humans who fought back. On the agricultural colonies of the Verdant Union, farmers wondered aloud why they had to send most of their crops to Council worlds, while their own people sometimes went hungry. Dr. Zellan, a scientist on the Council world of Nexus Station, sat in her laboratory, reading smuggled reports about human technology. What she saw there changed everything she thought she knew about progress and innovation. Look at this, she told her research partner, showing him data about human ship designs. They've developed faster-than-light drives that are 30% more efficient than ours. But they've only been spacefaring for 2 centuries. Her partner, Dr. Morvek, examined the data carefully. How is that possible? Because they don't follow our rules, Dr. Zeeland replied with growing excitement. Look at their design philosophy. They don't try to build perfect ships that last forever. They build good ships quickly, then improve them constantly. They share their innovations freely between colonies instead of keeping trade secrets. That goes against everything the Council teaches about proper technological development. Exactly, and it works better than our system. Meanwhile, back in human space, President Chen Wei was having a very different kind of meeting with her military leaders. They were gathered in a secure conference room beneath Luna City, and the mood was serious. The Council fleet is neutralized for now, reported Admiral Okafor. But we can't assume they'll give up easily. 3,000 years of habit don't change overnight. What's our strategic position? President Chen asked. General Morrison, head of human intelligence, activated a holographic display of the galaxy. Better than we hoped. Our agents report that 17 different species have made unofficial contact, wanting to know more about our methods. The Trade Federation is quietly moving assets away from Council space. Even some Council member species are showing signs of unrest. Unrest how? Work slowdowns, increased communications between worlds, requests for better trade agreements. Nothing dramatic yet, but the seeds are there. President Chen studied the display thoughtfully. What about our real military assets? The ones the Council doesn't know about yet? Admiral Okafor smiled grimly. Still in position and still undetected. The generation ships have reached their staging areas. The deep space installations are fully operational. If this goes badly, we can evacuate our entire population and continue the fight from mobile platforms. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, President Chen replied. Any word from our diplomatic mission? They arrived at the Council homeworld this morning, reported Foreign Secretary Yamamoto. Security was extensive, but they were allowed to dock and are requesting formal audience with the High Council. President Chen raised an eyebrow. They actually agreed to meet. Apparently, our little demonstration convinced them that we're worth talking to. The diplomatic mission President Chen mentioned was indeed making history at that very moment. Ambassador Helena Torres walked through the corridors of the Galaxy Council's ancient headquarters, flanked by 2 human security officers and surrounded by a dozen council guards. The building was impressive. Massive halls filled with art and artifacts from thousands of worlds, representing 3 millennia of galactic civilization. But Ambassador Torres noticed something troubling. Everything was old. The art, the technology, even the architecture seemed frozen in time. How long since this building was renovated? She asked her council escort. The alien dignitary looked confused by the question. Renovated? This structure has remained unchanged for 1,500 years. It represents the eternal stability of council rule. I see, Ambassador Torres replied, though privately she wondered how a civilization could remain stable by never changing anything. They entered the main council chamber, a vast circular room with 12 elevated platforms arranged around a central speaking area. Representatives of each ruling species sat on their platforms, looking down at the small human delegation with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. High Counselor Vexthul, an ancient being whose species had been spacefaring longer than humans had existed, spoke first. Ambassador Torres of Earth, you stand before the Galaxy Council as a representative of a species that has committed unprecedented acts of aggression against galactic authority. Ambassador Torres smiled politely. With respect, High Counselor, we defended ourselves against an unprovoked attack after politely declining your ultimatum. If that's aggression, then every species in the galaxy that locks their doors at night is guilty of the same crime. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. No one had ever spoken to the Council with such casual dismissal of their authority. Counselor Kethvar of the Industrial Union leaned forward aggressively. You destroyed a Council fleet. Actually, Ambassador Torres replied cheerfully, we disabled a Council fleet, then provided medical aid and technical assistance to their crews. Your own reports confirm that Council casualties were minimal, and most of those were from accidents during the battle, not deliberate targeting. You refused our lawful command to surrender, declared Counselor Yix of the Agricultural Worlds. True, Ambassador Torres agreed. We did refuse. Just like you would refuse if someone came to your homeworld and demanded you give up your independence. Surely you can understand that. High Counselor Vexthul raised one clawed hand for silence. What do you want, human? Why have you come here? Ambassador Torres activated a portable holographic projector, filling the center of the chamber with images and data. We want to show you something, High Counselors. Something your own people have been documenting for years, but perhaps haven't shared with you. The hologram showed economic data, technological development charts, and population statistics from across council space. The picture they painted was troubling. For the past 1,000 years, Ambassador Torres explained, technological advancement in council space has slowed to nearly zero. Economic growth has stagnated. Even population growth has declined on most worlds. Our civilization is stable, Counselor Vexthul replied stiffly. Your civilization is dying, Ambassador Torres said gently, not from war or disease, but from lack of growth, lack of change, lack of hope for something better. She changed the holographic display to show human space over the past 2 centuries. Compare that to human development. Yes, we've expanded rapidly, but look at what we've built. New technologies, new art forms, new ways of organizing society. We've made mistakes, learned from them, and tried again. That's what living civilizations do. Counselor Morthek of the Scientific Alliance studied the data carefully. These advancement rates? They're impossible. No species develops this quickly. No species under Council rule develops this quickly, Ambassador Torres corrected, because Council rule discourages the kind of risk-taking and innovation that drives real progress. You speak of chaos, Counselor Yix declared. Without proper control, civilizations destroy themselves. Some do, Ambassador Torres agreed. But some thrive. The question is, do you want to guarantee slow death through stagnation or risk vibrant life through change? She changed the display one more time, showing communication intercepts and intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Right now, 17 different species are reconsidering their relationship with the Council. Trade Federation worlds are quietly organizing alternative supply chains. Even some of your own member species are asking questions they haven't asked in centuries. What questions? High Counselor Vexthul asked quietly. Why do we send our best resources to Council worlds while our own people struggle? Why haven't we developed new technologies in 500 years? Why do we need permission from distant bureaucrats to make decisions about our own worlds? The chamber fell silent. These were dangerous questions, the kind that could topple governments and reshape civilizations. What do you propose? Counselor Vexthul finally asked. Ambassador Torres smiled, and for the first time since entering the chamber, it was completely genuine. We propose something that's never been tried in galactic history, she said. We propose that you stop being rulers and start being partners. The council chamber remained silent for nearly a full minute after Ambassador Torres spoke. 12 species that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years tried to process a concept they had never seriously considered. Partnership instead of dominance. High Counselor Vexthul was the first to find his voice. Partnership. You speak of treating subject species as equals? Not subject species, Ambassador Torres corrected gently. Partner species. Independent civilizations working together by choice, not by force. Counselor Kethvar slammed one metallic appendage against his platform. Impossible. Without central authority, the galaxy would collapse into chaos and war. Would it? Ambassador Torres asked. She activated her holographic projector again, showing a new set of data. These are crime statistics, productivity reports, and innovation indices from human space over the past 50 years. Compare them to similar data from council space. The numbers told a clear story. Human colonies had lower crime rates, higher productivity, and significantly more technological advancement than comparable council worlds. How? Asked Counselor Morthek, leaning forward to study the data more carefully. Because when people have a stake in their own success, Ambassador Torres explained, they work harder to achieve it. When they know their innovations won't be seized by distant rulers, they innovate more freely. When they feel safe and valued, they cooperate more readily with their neighbors. She changed the display to show human governmental structures. We don't have one central authority making all decisions. Each colony has significant self-governance, but we coordinate on issues that affect multiple worlds. We share resources freely, but no one is forced to give up what they need for their own people. This system would never work on a galactic scale, declared Counselor Yix. Too many species, too many conflicting interests. Maybe not, Ambassador Torres agreed, but shouldn't we at least try? What's the worst that could happen? Things get better? Counselor Zethlan of the military caste spoke for the first time. You assume all species are capable of such cooperation. Some are naturally aggressive, others are isolationist. Some value honor above all else, others prize only profit. And those differences are strengths, not weaknesses, Ambassador Torres replied enthusiastically. Aggressive species make excellent explorers and defenders. Isolationist species often develop unique technologies that benefit everyone. Honor-focused cultures provide moral leadership, while profit-minded species drive economic innovation. She gestured to the council members around her. Look at yourselves. 12 different species with 12 different strengths, all working together. You've already proven that cooperation across species lines is possible. We work together because we rule together, High Counselor Vexthul pointed out. Without our authority to enforce cooperation, lesser species would fight among themselves. Would they? Ambassador Torres asked. Or do they fight because they're forced to compete for your approval and resources? She activated a new display showing communication intercepts from across the galaxy. Right now, the Trade Federation is negotiating directly with the hegemony about mineral rights. The neutral worlds are coordinating with the Agricultural Union about food distribution. Even some of your own member species are talking to each other about mutual aid agreements. These are treasonous activities. Counselor Kethavar growled. These are natural activities, Ambassador Torres corrected. Species helping each other solve problems without waiting for permission from distant authorities. It's happening because we proved that the Council isn't invincible, and suddenly everyone realizes they have options. High Counselor Vexthul studied the data for several long minutes. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than before. What exactly are you proposing, human? Ambassador Torres took a deep breath. This was the moment everything hinged on. We propose dissolving the Galaxy Council as it currently exists and replacing it with the Galactic Cooperative. No more subjects and rulers. No more ultimatums and forced compliance. Instead, voluntary membership in a mutual aid organization. Impossible, several counselors said simultaneously. Is it? Ambassador Torres asked. Let me tell you what we're really offering here. The holographic display changed to show economic projections and technological development scenarios. Under the current system, the galaxy's total economic output has been essentially flat for 800 years. Technological advancement has slowed to a crawl. Even population growth is declining. The projections showed what could happen under a cooperative system: exponential economic growth, rapid technological advancement, and expanding exploration of new regions of space. This assumes perfect cooperation, Counselor Morthek observed. What happens when species disagree? The same thing that happens when people disagree, Ambassador Torres replied. You talk about it. You negotiate. You find compromise solutions, or you agree to disagree while still working together on areas of common interest. And if talking fails, then you try harder to understand each other's perspectives. You bring in mediators. You look for creative solutions that benefit everyone. And if violence breaks out, Ambassador Torres smiled grimly, then the other members of the cooperative work together to stop it, not to crush and dominate, but to restore peace and address the underlying problems that led to conflict. Counselor Zethlan leaned forward. You speak of noble ideals, but what assurance do we have that this cooperative wouldn't become just another form of human dominance? Because we don't want to rule anyone, Ambassador Torres replied simply. We've seen what 3,000 years of galactic rule has accomplished: stagnation, fear, and slow decline. We want to see what 3,000 years of galactic cooperation might accomplish instead. She changed the display one final time, showing humanity's true assets for the first time: massive generation ships, hidden colonies, and military capabilities far beyond what they had shown in the recent battle. We could have used these forces to conquer you, she said quietly. We have the military capability to overthrow the Council and impose our own rule. Instead, we're here talking to you about partnership. The Council members stared at the display in shock. The human military capabilities shown there were staggering, enough to challenge the entire galaxy if they chose to. Why? High Counselor Vexthul asked. Why offer cooperation when you could simply take control? Because ruling by force is what you've been doing for 3,000 years, and look how well that's worked out, Ambassador Torres replied. We'd rather build something new than just replace one form of tyranny with another. High Counselor Vexthul conferred quietly with the other council members for several minutes. When he turned back to Ambassador Torres, his expression was thoughtful. If we were to consider this proposal, he said carefully, what would become of the current council members? What role would we play in this cooperative? The same role as everyone else, Ambassador Torres replied. Equal partners in building a better galaxy. Your experience and knowledge would be invaluable in helping establish the new system. And our authority would come from your wisdom and expertise, not from your ability to threaten destruction. Counselor Yix spoke up. What about species that refuse to join this cooperative? Then they don't join, Ambassador Torres said with a shrug. No ultimatums, no forced participation. If they want to isolate themselves, that's their choice. If they want to maintain their current relationships with council worlds, that's between them and those worlds. This is madness, Counselor Kethvar declared. A galaxy without central authority would be chaos. Maybe, Ambassador Torres agreed. Or maybe it would be freedom. Won't we only know if we try? She deactivated the holographic projector and looked around the chamber at each council member in turn. 3 months ago, you ordered humanity to surrender. We refused with a smile because we believe the galaxy can be better than it is. We still believe that. The question is, do you? High Counselor Vexthul closed his ancient eyes and sat in silence for a long moment. When he opened them again, there was something different there. Something that hadn't been present in 3,000 years of council rule. Hope. Ambassador Torres, he said slowly, we would like to hear more about this galactic cooperative. 1 year later, President Chen Wei stood in the observation deck of New Geneva Station, watching as construction crews from 12 different species worked together to build the cooperative's first joint research facility. Human engineers worked alongside crystalline architects, while verdant biologists consulted with industrial fabricators about environmental systems. Ambassador Zethkar approached her, moving with the easy confidence of someone who had found new purpose in life. The quarterly report shows remarkable progress, he told her. Economic growth is up 40% across former council space. We've had 17 new technological breakthroughs in just the past month. Any problems? President Chen asked. The usual growing pains. The warlike clans are still adjusting to resolving disputes through negotiation rather than combat. The Merchant Federation keeps trying to corner markets until someone reminds them that cooperation benefits everyone more than monopolies. But